Hey everybody, and thanks for checking us out here at Building My Bankroll. Today we're going to be going over the basics of color coding and note taking and the pros and cons of each. So if that's something you're trying to learn more about, stick around. We definitely have what you're looking for. The concept of color coding is basically to click on players' avatars and you assign them an outline of color based on the type of player they are. The three main attributes that you're going to want to look for are fishes, regulars, and nits. But I mean, that's just the basics. You can take it a lot further from there if you want to get a lot more specific in your system, but that's the only things that we're going to be covering in this video today. So myself, I use more of a stoplight system, so to speak, where I label fishes as green, regulars as yellow, and nits as red. So this is because like the fishes are green. You want to feel comfortable playing as much as you can against these players. You want to play a lot lighter of a range and be willing to mix it up because they're fish. These are the players that you're looking to take advantage of and get as many pots in against them as you can. Now, regulars, I label as yellow for the reason that you want to proceed with caution. These players are more experienced and they can also be quite crafty in the different betting lines that they take. So exactly that, you want to be cautious in when you're playing up against them. It's not that you don't want to play against them, it's just that you need to change your playing style a bit and adapt. And lastly is the nits, where I flagged them as red. So again, just because they're flagged as red doesn't mean that, hey, I need to stop and not play against them. It just means that I need to realize the type of player that I'm playing against, and the color code gives me a quick little reminder of who I'm playing against in case I don't have any notes taken on this player that I can't draw from as a reference point. So another thing about color coding is as you get more and more used to using the system and you're applying colors to different players, you're going to be doing it quite quickly, to be honest. Now, a lot of the times you'll make a mistake, and so you'll color code a player as one thing, but then after you've played a lot more hands against him and your sample size has increased, you're going to realize you made a mistake. Don't hesitate to change colors. Do it as quickly as you can, because realistically, what's the point in having these players tagged if it's not accurate, right? Okay, so we're going to start talking about notes a little bit here. Most important thing is that you want your notes to be short and to the point. You want them to be relevant. There's no point taking notes about the average hand that doesn't really do anything, or the average situation where the player responds how you would expect them to. You're looking to take notes on hands where the player is in a weird situation and you want to take notes on how they reacted in that given situation. So the things that you want to be looking for, and you definitely want to make sure that you include it in your notes, are the stack sizes of both the hero and the villain in the situation, the position of both players, or I mean all players if there's more than just two in a situation you're taking notes on, the pre-flop action, so who raised it to how many big blinds, what was the 3-bet if there was, the 4-bet, etc., right? Now, the flop texture in the hand that you're given is very important, and the action that resulted because of that textured flop, like how did they react to it, what did it do to them. And then also obviously for the turn in the river, you want the same information if the hand you're taking notes about ends up progressing that far. But I mean, they don't always make it that far, as we all know, so it's just something to keep in mind. So the last thing that you want to be looking for is the time it took the villain to make his or her decisions, or the time it took the villain to react to the moves that you made in that hand. Those are definitely important things that you want to have involved in your notes. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to take a quick look at a hand that I just played through, and then after we go through the hand, I'm going to take notes on the hand as if I really cared about this particular situation and this particular player. Okay, so here we go. We had the ace king. We open. We end up getting two callers. We see the flop here, 4-5-5. I mean, chances are it didn't hit it hit anybody else any better than it hit us, but we'll go through. We're playing it cautiously here. So we decide to check it through. It goes through the sharp here on the button, and he bets a little over half pot into us. At that point, I decide to float the flop, see what transpired here on the turn, and then based on his play and a matter of what we end up hitting on the turn, obviously reevaluate and take it from there. Now, with that being said, what you can't see in this hand replayer is how long he took. Okay, and so when the 10 came here, I checked it back to him, and he sat there and he literally tanked. He tanked before finally making his bet against us. And now this all goes and revolves back to color coding as well. I had already had him tagged from a previous session I played against him as a regular. So I know that he's capable of thinking on a different level than most of the players playing at these stakes. And so I know that generally speaking, when a player takes a long time thinking about something and then bets into you, he is having a really strong holding, and he wants to take that time to think about, you know, the exact bet to make in order to get the most value out of the situation he can. But now, given that I know he is a regular at these stakes, and I have played him against him before, that made me realize that he can be taking this line and purposely thinking about it in order to give that impression, because he's seen me too. He probably has me color coded and note taken, saying, you know, through the different hands that we played against each other, right? And so because of this, when he goes forward with his bet here after tanking, and like he literally burned down all of his time bank basically before doing this, he came back with the bet. So you know what, based on my read, I decided to go with it, and so I decided to check raise him here, and it worked. He snap folded like that. Obviously you can't tell that it took him as long as it did to lay out his initial bet there, but he literally snap folded, right? So now we're gonna go here and we're gonna take our notes on it. So we're gonna go back. And so say I raise 2.5 to 3 BB from middle position, get 2 callers sharp on button. Right? That covers everything pre-flop. There's no exciting theatrics there. Okay, so now we're going to put down sharp bets just over half pot from button when checked round 2 on flop. I float and turn doesn't help much, so I check to him. So I check to him. At this point, he tanks, eventually coming forward with a bet. I peg him as making a move and check raise, which he snap folds to. And then down here, I would go ahead and I'd put in the texture of the board. So 5 hearts, 5 diamonds, 4 club, and 10 club. Spade. And then I'd save it. And that would be it. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to give some quick examples of color coding. Now, with that being said, this is on 888 Poker, and on here I actually don't use colors. They have little images and stuff that basically I equate to the same thing. So in here, instead of using green for fish, there's like a little a picture of a fish skeleton that I use. Instead of yellow for regulars, there's like a little shark avatar thing that I put on players. And then for the nits, instead of using red, the color red, and having them be outlined, there's a little picture of like rocks, which I consider like unmovable rocks. Like, yeah. So anyways, we're gonna get started here quickly. The first thing I look for when flagging players, especially for fish, is people who aren't at full stacked. So right away, I'm gonna flag this guy as a fish, flag this guy as a fish, and yeah, from there, that's all the assumptions I can make. So, but I'm gonna fold out of there and move on. And again, this guy's fish. Now, one thing you have to be careful of when you're color coding based on their stack sizes alone is that they could be short stackers. But I mean, that's usually pretty easy to tell because they'll have a very specific amount, and it'll be like, 50 big blinds or 60 big blinds, and they'll be like give or take a small fraction, and every time you see them, they will be at that range or very close to it. And so it's just something that you got to keep in mind when you are doing this. But yeah, so that's basically it. I don't want to be on here forever. That's just a quick example again. Like, so all these players I'm marking as fish on my other poker client, I'd be color coding them green, right, or yellow or red depending on them. But I'm just going to fold out here and we're going to close it out. Alright, well, thanks again for watching the video. I really hope it helped. Be sure to head down to the comment section below. Leave your own tips and tricks for color coding and note taking. You can give me advice for improvements I can make, or even put in requests for future content you'd like to see me touch upon. So if you did like the video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already.